It's 2018, in Daytona, Florida, at the state's premier fighting game tournament. Although nobody knew it yet, these two would come to be two of the greatest Smash Bros. Players of all time, and perhaps have a rivalry with the greatest legacy in modern Smash. Right now is a key point, and the culmination of the past few years of their careers, as with a new Smash game on the horizon, both Mkleo and Tweek have been locked in a close race for the #1 rank in the world for Smash 4's final season. And since this is the final tournament of the season, there's a real chance that whichever player wins this match secures rank 1 for the first time. Tweek had entered the grand finals match from the loser's side of bracket, meaning he would have to win 2 best-of-5 sets off of Mkleo in order to win the tournament. But that didn't stop his confidence, as he had brought out his unorthodox counterpick for his rival, Donkey Kong. Tweek had started using the mid-tier primarily for Leo, and it had been working, leading to a 5-2 set lead in the rivalry so far, and this set was starting to seem like it was no exception. Tweek would take game 1 against Leo's Lucina rather convincingly, and force him to seemingly pull out his last-ditch effort, arguably the most broken character in Smash history, Bayonetta. But even with the best character in the game, Leo would fall in game 2, and after getting hit by DK's signature combo twice in game 3, lose the first set. Mkleo was already known for his mental resilience to put up a fight against any player, no matter how grim the situation was. But that resilience, for the first time, seemed to be absent today, replaced by a sense of anxiety. After already overcoming so much in his career, while fighting for something beyond himself, and finally coming so close to the #1 title, it was seemingly his American bracket demon that would put his story to an end. With the flow of the match entirely flipping, Tweek would ditch his mid-tier to also switch to Bayonetta, a character he was much more experienced with than Leo, and it showed, closing out a 2-stock in game 3. Going into game 4, with momentum turning out of his favor, Leo would bring out his third character of the set, Marth. Despite the character not being nearly as broken as Bayonetta, Leo decided to stick to his fundamentals in hopes of becoming Smash 4's final champion.
Starting play, hit for this time, but not enough to take the kill.
Really on the ropes here, and Gale looking to close this out. Dancing blade,
and he does it!
Using Marth, Leo would be able to win the tournament, and largely due to this win, secure the #1 title for the first time in his career, and consequentially prevent Tweek from accomplishing the same thing. This match, although extremely pivotal at the moment, would pale in comparison to the sheer scale and stakes of some of their future matches, leading up to their battle on the greatest stage Smash has ever seen. The greater context towards this match is not nearly as well known, but the obstacles both players have had to overcome to reach this moment adds even more weight to an already legendary match. After his loss to Leo at CEO, Tweek wouldn't leave his bed for days, depressed by the opportunity that seemingly fell out of his grasp. Coming out of this time, and segueing into the beginning of Smash Ultimate, the goal was clear. After coming so close to what he had played his whole life for, Tweek was determined to become the first #1 Smash Ultimate player in the world. The new game brought a whole new wave of players to fight for that one spot. Old veterans came back, and players from numerous different fighting games took their chance at the competitive scene. Near the end of Smash 4, tournament attendance waned, and many competitors retired. But this first year of Ultimate seemingly was going to be the highest level of competition ever, which made the #1 rank that much more enticing. A week after the release of Ultimate, Tweek was invited to one of the first high-skill competitive tournaments, where he would come to win without dropping a single set. Although it's important to mention that a key rival wasn't present, Leo would have his first tournament a few weeks later, in which he would come out on top at. But once again, this would be without Tweek attending. The first tournament both would attend would be Glitch 6, a 500 entrant tournament in Maryland, and going into winter semifinals, they were one match away from having their long-awaited first set in Ultimate. Tweek would win his set, but Leo would fall to top Fox player Light, and after making it to loser semifinals, failed to advance to Tweek, who would go on to win the tournament. Tweek's goal wasn't necessarily to beat Leo, it was to be the #1 player in the world, regardless of who was in his way. Leo just happened to be the player in his way in Smash 4, and as fate would have it, it would be the same for Ultimate as well, as going into the first S-Rank tournament of the season, Genesis 6, the two were seeded #1 and 2, with this tournament shaping to be the catalyst for one of the two to take a definitive lead. However, the top-seeded player would have an early obstacle in his path.
The loft is still effective. Oh my god! Excellent forward smash! Calling out the second jump! We are in a one-stock situation!
We are going down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen! Up, we're down, here we go!
He's on the loop!
Oh, here we go, loop-de-loop!
He's in.
Oh no!
100%. It's a lost stage! Has to use the bike.
He's chasing him! That's gonna be it! That is gonna be it! And Esam takes win!
Going into losers early, Tweek wouldn't let his reputation of being the best player in the world fall away so easily, making it all the way to losers top 16, before falling to Dabuz in a 3-0. And as if placing beneath his seed didn't hurt enough, Leo would make his own impressive run through losers bracket to win the tournament, and confidently turn the tides against Tweek in the conversation for the #1 title. Though still arguing for Tweek's place at the top of the podium, would bring up how the two hadn't directly fought yet, so it wouldn't be fair to declare Leo as the best. Thankfully, the community wouldn't have to wait very long for this initial battle. 3 weeks later, at Frostbite 2019, Smash Ultimate's second S-tier tournament, the two would meet in winners finals. So far, the two were the only players with multiple major wins under their belt, and despite Leo's recent big win at Genesis, this match served as the potential way for Tweek to catch back up in the narrative. Their match would start out reminiscent to their Smash 4 matches, in that once again, Tweek would attempt to surprise Leo with Donkey Kong, while Leo would stick with Ike, the character with straightforward kill combos that he won Genesis with. As the first game came to a close, Leo proved that the mind games of old wouldn't work anymore, capping it off with a 2-stock. So to carry on the tradition of counterpicking each other's characters, Tweek would switch to his new main for Smash Ultimate, Wario. Some compare Wario to Melee Jigglypuff, in that both players tend to rely on combos into their win condition. For Jigglypuff, it's rest, and for Wario, it's...
Oh no!
After missing his key win condition, Tweek would go down 2-0. Having already had a disappointing finish at Genesis, he couldn't afford getting swept by Leo at their first meeting, so he decided to stick with his gut going into Game 3. Tweek managed to completely turn the tides, closing out the game in a 2-stock. At times, Leo even seemed desperate to finish out the match. Going into Game 4, the momentum would be no different, with this game falling even further into Tweek's favor. Leo would finally switch things up, and choose one of his old reliable characters from Smash 4, Lucina. This would allow him to diversify his game plan, and potentially let his multi-game experience with the character make the difference in this key point of the set. Whoever took this game would officially take the first lead in the rivalry. Leo would use his spacing fundamentals that were second to none to take the early lead in the game, while Tweek would poke at Leo's defense in order to hit any deadly combos.
Again, roll it!
133, even an Excel should be able to tail.
Okay, he's back in the center again. That's a punish for sure.
He's
Down
being
throw.
risky with
Roll
that.
it.
Watch the roll. Yep,
Keep
he's rolling
rolling.
again. You see it too. That down tilt, down tilt, that. Tweek with 3 2-stocks in a row.
To say the least, Tweek was ecstatic to complete the reverse 3-0 in order to take the first lead in the rivalry, and put himself in grand finals, set to even up the count of S-tier tournaments won between the two. But after Leo crushed his opponent in losers finals of the tournament, he knew that to make this a reality, he would have to slay the Titan again. It was clear to everyone now that these two players were in a league of their own. They would continue right where they left off, but with the same two characters. Leo, who just 3-0'd his previous opponent, should be the one with the momentum, but Tweek was looking to remind him of how their last set just ended.
He needs to take advantage of this.
He actually has a chance now.
Ooh. And Leo needs to knock him off the stage. Oh no! Oh no! That is...
Tweek would win his 6th game in a row against Leo to officially sweep him out of the tournament and to tie themselves up in the amount of S-rank tournaments won. With the race to number 1 becoming increasingly dynamic, their upcoming matches would only become more important. Leo took the loss with grace, but the pain of defeat didn't elude him. Losing the tournament didn't only hurt his own personal claim to the number 1 title, it also meant $2,500 less of a prize payout than Tweek. Why this is important is that Leo would often spend a large amount of his prize money and salary to support his family back in Nalcapan, Mexico, who took on the risk of him becoming a full-time traveling Smash player. The difference between getting 1st or 2nd place at a tournament often meant being able to double or triple his family income or not, and make strides to move his family out of one of the most dangerous cities in Mexico. The number 1 player in the world title came with a higher salary, more publicity, and sponsorships. Losing the title for the new, more popular Smash game was something that Leo feared. Leo wouldn't go down without a fight, winning Smash's most prestigious invitational tournament weeks later. But afterwards, his results would start to slip, with a 7th place finish at 2GG Prime Saga and Pound 2019. He was losing out on key time to regain his lead over Tweek, but with the game's meta evolving, many of his key characters were starting to be left behind. However, that would end up being his saving grace. After a short period of getting antiquated with the character, Mkleo's results began to have a resurgence. He would place 2nd at one of the top Japanese tournaments, less than a month after Joker's release, and going into the season's next S-tier tournament, MomoCon 2019, he was tearing through the bracket, with none of his sets even being close until top 8. But he would show why he was truly in contention for Smash's top spot. And in Winners Finals, he would be granted the opportunity to face the only other player who had the same claim. For the first time in 3 months, the two would cross paths. As well, this would be the first time Leo would use his Joker against him. Tweek's game plan as Wario wouldn't differ too much than in their previous matches, as he would have to rely on his high damage combos and win condition, Waft, in order to have the advantage. But the difference for Leo was noticeable, as his older characters, such as Lucina or Ike, relied on gradually wearing down the opponents with spacing and some specific sequences, but Joker was a whole different beast, with access to multiple projectiles and his own intimidating win condition, Arsene, which made each of his moves up to twice as strong while his meter was active. To say the least, Tweek initially underestimated the threat that was Leo's Joker, but as history had it, just because a match starts not in Tweek's favor doesn't mean he won't be able to bring it back. The Mexican would once again find himself up 2-0 against Tweek on the verge of closing out his first set against his rival. With one of his key combos, Leo was able to close out the match and reach Grand Finals. But once again, as fate would have it, the two would battle for the lead of S-tier wins. Hot off of his prior set win, Tweek would start out the match with Roy, a sword fighter known for his great speed and ability to kill very early. Ironically enough, Leo would be the one killing early, closing out a 3-stock in game 1. Consequentially, Tweek would switch back to Wario and close out a close game in order to finally even things up. Up to this point, Leo had a reputation of being able to start sets strong, but Tweek would always manage to adapt to whatever new strategy Leo brought in order to take it home at the end of the day. So in this moment, there was nothing Leo wanted more than to change this narrative. After 2 close games in a row, Game 4 would live up to the hype.
Opening, but he actually took the fight the wrong way too. I thought he was gonna up smash on a shield. Tense situation pops him up. Arsene coming soon. Oh wow, really soon. Okay.
Although Tweek was able to make the game close, Leo's Joker was a step above his other characters he had fought, but Tweek was desperate to get another shot at him. And fortunately enough, The next S-tier tournament, Smash and Splash 5, was the following weekend, and most spectators believed that they would be treated with another battle between the two best players in Grand Finals. However, top Smash Bros. Melee player and the 97th seed of the whole tournament, Wizrobe, would manage to perform the statistically greatest upset in Smash Ultimate up to this point. Shaken, Tweek would also lose his next set in loser's bracket to get eliminated in 33rd place. Having shifted between a multitude of characters within the past month and experiencing his worst performance in the new game, things were now looking grim.
And Leo, all right, I think it's safe to call this basically the tournament.
What?
Oh, no,
oh my God.
no, you can't do that. You can't.
No
Wow.
way! Leo, even there in the depths of the blast
I
zone on the
cannot-
right-hand side.
Even though his skill was greater than nearly everyone else in the world, Tweek's mentality when it came to Ultimate was rather destructive. The pressure of trying to be number one came with levels of stress he could have never foreseen. During this first year of Ultimate, the amount of publicity the scene had was multitudes higher than he had ever gotten used to near the end of Smash 4. With his failure to reach the number one title for the first half of 2019, there came a lot of feelings, such as shame and disappointment. But over time, as had been the case throughout his career, a different feeling started to take the reins, and the following was a large reason for that.
We're happy to welcome Super Smash Bros. Ultimate to EVO 2019.
The world's most prestigious fighting game tournament, EVO, had announced that Smash Ultimate would be part of its lineup for 2019, with the top 8 matches taking place in the Mandalay Bay Events Center. EVO is essentially the closest thing to the Super Bowl of fighting games, where the winner of the tournament can lay a serious claim to being the greatest player in the world. And this tournament was exactly what Tweek needed. With the popularity of the game still at its peak, the entrance to the tournament kept climbing, soaring above any of the other S-rank tournaments from the previous year, landing at a whopping 3,534. The tournament would be seen as a level above S, as it would be easily the largest Smash Bros. Tournament of all time. To have a genuine shot to win, Tweek had to bring out a surprise, not only for Leo, but for everyone. After taking a month-long break from tournaments, and only a couple weeks before EVO, Tweek would compete at Low Tier City 7 with his new trademark character, Pokemon Trainer, and it was safe to say, his time away from tournaments hadn't been wasted.
No. Oh, he gets it.
Tweek's Pokemon Trainer was a 3-headed monster. Even if an opponent had a good matchup against one of them, he could switch to one of the others and take back control. This character was the most effective at displaying his skill and the hardest to shut out, which is exactly what he was looking for. EVO 2019 would be like no other tournament in history. Sure, Tweek was a little bit nervous, but with a new ace in his sleeve, Tweek couldn't wait to finally cement himself as Smash Ultimate's Grand Champion. Tweek would hardly drop a game throughout the entire pool section of the bracket, and besides one close match in top 32 against Proto Banham, Tweek would have a dominant run all the way to Winners Finals, where he would be seeded to finally have his next rematch against Leo. But this EVO would be full of surprises. Leo's winner's side top 32 match would be against top Japanese player Kameme. Kameme was revered within the Japanese scene, but he had never cracked the worldwide top 10. Internationally, he was the type of player to make it far in bracket, but never be a true threat to win. He was the type of player without a career-defining match.
He wanted a forward smash. Oh, safe situation again. Mkleo goes super low. He doesn't quite get what he was looking for though. 110 piece.
Oh my god, that's gonna be the set!
Leo would fall down into loser side top 32, with many other top players from around the globe in his path. Although some thought losing in winner side early would lead to a disappointing finish outside of top 8, many felt as if the odds were still in his favor. To beat some of the best players in the world, in order to make it to the greatest stage Smash has ever seen. And he would, making it to top 8 and being met by arguably the best player from Japan, the young prodigy, Zachary. But once again,
Throwing out these back airs right above. And I think Mkleo might be the inevitability to look out for. He is
Up in winner's side of bracket, instead of facing Mkleo in winners finals as seeded, Tweek would face the best player from Europe, Gluttony, who had won every tournament that had taken place on the continent so far. After stealing Game 2, Game 3 would come to a very close climax, where Tweek had multiple moves that would end the match.
Tweek is rolling.
Okay, the bike finally knocking Tweek out of his momentum, but he's not done. He has the opportunity, but he misses the up air. And another chance, but he switches one.
But ironically enough, a familiar move would turn the tides. Gluttony would take a strong Game 4 and force a deciding game. He had an opportunity to throw a wrench in the narrative most people believed in. And when the game went to last stock, that goal was within arm's reach.
Okay, falling through the platform with that up air follow-up of the down air. Can he catch him? But no.
No watts.
He's on it.
He didn't have watts. He might have had half watts, but it wouldn't be enough. Gets the back air. He's going to try to throw out the race relief. It knocks him off the bike, but it's not enough. He reads the roll in, and Tweek is going to grand.
Tweek proved that he deserved the spot in grand finals. Throughout the past months, he had been working out his flaws, his reliance on older characters, his lack of motivation, and most importantly, his X factor, so he can close out close games. Everything seemed like it was finally coming together, and he seemed like he was ready for anything. Leo would defeat another top Japanese player, Raito, in dominant fashion, and make his way to top 4, where there would be only 2 more top players that could prevent the fated match. After making a 7-set losers run, only dropping 1 game along the way, the pinnacle of Smash would feature none other than the 2 best players in the world. Their rivalry had defined Smash Ultimate up to this point, with either player having the upper hand in the rivalry at different times. For Tweek, this match, with over 250,000 people watching, was his opportunity to prove to the world, but more importantly himself, that he was truly the best player in the world. For Leo, the difference between first and second place in terms of prize money was over $14,000, meaning potentially securing the win would mean the world for his family. Unlike other rivalries, these two didn't have any bad blood with each other. However, they consistently proved to be the main obstacle in each other's paths toward their goals. So in this match, only one player's dreams could come true, and for that to be the case, they would have to end the others. From both players' perspectives, they weren't only playing one matchup, but rather 3. Generally, Squirtle was the character Tweek would use early in stocks due to his great combos, but due to his lack of strong kill confirms, as stocks would play on, he would often switch to Ivysaur or Charizard, who had a multitude of ways to end stocks. For Leo, without Arsene, Joker was still a great character, but lacked some of his stronger combos that he otherwise had. But rather than relying on the strength boost of Arsene, Leo would show that his Joker was always a character to be afraid of.
Trying to space around in the middle of the stage and drag down into the smash red.
Game 1 would come to a close conclusion, with both players being on their last stock, and Leo's Arsene giving him the potential to take the game on just one good read.
Getting covered by Leo. I'm not sure what he was looking for there though, but now he's in a horrible spot. Charizard gonna launch him off, and now once again back up.
Not like that.
Even though Leo had been hot from his earlier losers run, Tweek was putting out his flames, with various early stocks and strong reads. A common talking point in the community was that although Leo may have been the best player in the world, Tweek's peak was higher, and so far, this set was proving that. Up 2-0 in Winterside Grand Finals, Tweek was 1 game away from taking the lead in the rivalry, and cementing himself as the new #1 player with a dominant EVO victory. Few have ever been in the situation Tweek was in at this moment, so his exact feelings are likely something only he truly knows. But it's likely that there was a unique pressure in this situation, and a mental dialogue trying to suppress his excitement of victory, but also the nerve-wracking thought, don't choke. Their first stock of Game 3 would go the distance, with Leo getting first blood. Gaining a lead, he would take through the next stock. Tweek would keep trying to hit his combo stars and kill confirms, but most of them would miss, and cause Leo's lead to further grow. Tweek was able to bring back the game to last stock, but Leo managed to close out the game with his signature combo. For Leo, the thought of having to win 3 games in a row, as well as another set, seemed so out of the realm of possibility that he almost felt as if the burden of losing wasn't on him. As for Tweek, that potential burden was 1 game closer, But still, at least he had the leeway of 2 more games to play with in this set. That allowance gave Tweek enough confidence to once again show his peak form, and he would open up the game hitting numerous combos with his Squirtle, and after closing out a close first stock, he would only get hit once before taking Leo's second. Now, once again, Tweek was 1 stock away from winning EVO. This time around, it wasn't an even stock count. He was up 3 stocks to 1. With the odds greatly in his favor, all he had to do was close it out, and not give that little voice in the back of his head any fuel.
Jumping to center stage.
Right, and look at Leo coming alive right now. 74% and poor little Squirtle cannot handle through.
Leo calling out the Pokemon switch. Charizard is reeling. He wants to switch to Squirtle, but he's going to take even more damage. Leo is not going down without a fight.
Even putting, here's a grab.
Oh no, this is so scary. He wanted to catch him. He goes for a spike. Leo is able to get out.
1 hit away from closing the door on Mkleo's miraculous comeback, Tweek just had to find his opening, and that moment supposedly came. As Leo slowly walked towards his shield, if Tweek released an up smash here, he would be the EVO champion. Except, he couldn't bring himself to take the risk, and Leo knew it. In Game 5, Tweek was still just 1 game away from winning the tournament, but after blowing a 3-1 stock lead, he felt as if there was much less leeway. The world in which he loses 3 games in a row and has to play a second set was now much more real, and in his mind, the pressure only kept rising. Just games earlier, Tweek had been going even with Leo, and closing out games due to his refined X Factor, but now he was starting out behind, unable to get any reads to close out stocks, while losing his quickly. Leo would take a 3-1 stock lead. Objectively, Tweek winning here was as possible as Leo's victory in the prior game, but due to the momentum spiraling out of his favor, it felt impossible. The final best of 5 set for EVO started out the exact opposite way as the prior, with Leo now taking charge. However, Tweek didn't want to let the momentum snowball out of his favor, so despite a tough game 1, he would bring the game within reach.
Tweek barely escaping everything that's coming out, snatching this man and throwing him off the stage. Goes so low. Can he catch him with the back air? But can he make it
he's
back?
so low. He tried
In Game 2, Tweek would show flashes of dominance, but repeatedly make errors that would be read by Leo.
Oh, no!
Game 3 would be on the same stage as Leo's incredible comeback from the prior set, and maybe that's what Tweek needed to start his own.
They cannot kill this man.
Just so tricky. Uses the movement, just closing all the windows, shuttering the doors, but Tweek might have found a source of light.
What is the plan? He wants to catch us falling up here, but he doesn't get it. The drag.
On his last stock, over 130%, he had to pull off a miracle in order to make up the deficit. He climbed up even further into percent, and for once, Leo seemed like the player unable to close it out. Tweek knew it. He had to go for 1 hard read to kickstart his comeback, and make him believe that he could still be the EVO champion.
Waiting for the 3rd jab, so smart. He's gonna try to go low. Can he spike it? He mistimes it. Mkleo defeats Tweek to be your 2019 EVO champion.
It is said that Leo didn't have some grand pop-off after winning because he thought of what it would have been like to lose in the way that Tweek did. Leo, although ecstatic at the manner of his win, and at the fact that his dreams had just come true, took the win with class. Tweek was clearly disappointed with his loss, as this tournament would come to be the closest Tweek would ever be to the #1 rank. As well, the following year, it was announced that Nintendo had asked for Smash to no longer be featured at EVO, due to Sony's involvement with the tournament, meaning to this day, Leo remains as the only Smash Ultimate EVO champion. Leo and Tweek's rivalry in Ultimate would span for 6 more years, with both players taking a handful of prestigious tournament wins over the other, but to many, none of those compare to their battle at EVO. This tournament would lead Leo to another #1 ranking, and a period of dominance which had given him the title of the greatest Ultimate player of all time in many people's eyes, and most importantly, give him the level of success to move his family to a safer part of Mexico. These 2 players both had their own wild dreams for how their careers would play out, but ultimately, only one of theirs could come true. Perhaps that's a bittersweet thing about competition, that in every dream-esque win, there's a dream-crushing defeat on the other side. But maybe, dreams wouldn't be possible in the first place without the chance of them never coming true.